Welcome to Preserving Valor, the podcast dedicated to saving the personal stories of veterans. My name is Jay Vissers. This is the third episode in the story of U.S. Army Air Force veteran Joe Enrietti. In our last episode, Joe and his crew completed their training stateside and literally shipped out for Rackheath, England, aboard the converted troop ship Ile-de-France, arriving in the morning to a crowded harbor.
There were ships all over, different types of. Then they had a small ship that we'd get off of and go down like a rope ladder and get into port with that. I think it was Southampton. And then we went to the base at Rackheath, England.
On the roughly 200-mile trip to Rackheath, on the outskirts of Norwich, Joe got his first impression of England.
Very clean country. There was no, brush or that around trees or that. It was cleaner than ours. Here we leave a tree, it'd go down, but over there they used it for fuel. Okay. The dead ones. I had a neighbor over here that he cut little twigs from the woods. Now this is before 44, and his wife used to use that for cooking. It was a hot fire, quick. But in England, no, there was no junk laying around. Kind of old looking, the towns and that. And they were getting hit pretty hard by the Germans. So there were a lot of. We didn't see too much of that. We went to London and different things. We seen some of the, the buildings that were bombed and stuff like that there, but they wouldn't even take us down to where they were really bombed out. And the Germans had those buzz bombs that they'd go so far. Now that's the rockets. The Germans had the rockets. They'd go so far, run out of fuel, and that's when they say when you heard it stop running, you better start running, because they were going to come down from there, and then they would explode, see?
The V-1 rocket was the world's first long-range cruise missile. It used a pulse jet engine with a distinctive sound, like a gigantic bumblebee. It was developed during the Second World War and used by the Nazis as a terror weapon against Allied cities like London.
Here are the first censored pictures of Germany's so-called flying bomb. Some have penetrated the defenses of southern England. Many more have been destroyed over the sea.
After the V-1, German engineers also invented the first true rocket, the V-2, which later paved the way for space exploration. Another 20th century invention, Spam, was popularized during World War II because of its portability and convenience.
A lot of Spam. Spam would come in big cans, square cans, and it would keep for quite a while. Didn't even have to be refrigerated. And then they dressed it up, but we know it was Spam, and yeah, you were hungry, you ate. But then they had black beer in town. We went to town a few times. We didn't have that much time off. We all had bicycles. We'd buy them like cars. And they had these skinny wheels, in that time already, with the handlebar brakes. Now we had fat tires, good cushion ride. There was a name for the brake. You just push back on your pedals. When you want to go forward, you'd go forward, but coaster brakes. You'd push them back and you'd have back wheel brakes. But then on the English one, you had front brakes and back brakes, but handlebars. And you better get used to which one you press, because press that front one, lots of luck. That was our transportation. We'd if we went out that we were going to come home in the evening, we'd wrap our raincoat and then have our GI flashlight hooked on there, and that's the way we would travel. And but we trade them in. Then if you found a better one, you traded it in. And then when we left, they weren't giving us nothing for them. So we called in our the kid that would come in the mother or sister door would wash our clothes.
While uniforms were typically laundered by the quartermaster, it was up to servicemen to handle the cleaning of personal items, which could include socks and underwear. This often meant employing civilians.
And we asked him which bikes he wanted and take his brothers and sisters and took our bikes. What didn't get used by the kids in there, we piled them up and set them on fire. Because all these dealers were waiting for them so you could sell them.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to our bikes. Now money, see, we were paid in cash in the service. When it came down for cash, the MP and the pay officer would come in and you show me your dog tags. Joe Enrietti, he'd count up the money. Checks weren't just in business. So you had to keep the money, a money belt, next to your skin.
The use of checks wasn't popularized in the United States until the 1950s. If a serviceman didn't want to keep all their cash in a money belt, they could buy war bonds or money orders to send home. At some bases, military banks or secure lockers were available.
When you took a shower, you'd have to take that into your shower too, because you're not in the shower by yourself. There's about, I think, 6 or 7 others taking the showers in your toilet. But that's how you got paid, and that's how you knew what you had for the whole month. You got paid by the month. So you had to more or less ration yourself out to what you had. We had a chance at once to go down to London, Piccadilly Square. That's where all the girls were, by the hundreds. Nighttime girls. And we had to go and see that. Some took the girls too, but yeah, it was Piccadilly Square. You can look that up on your computer sometime.
Piccadilly Circus, often called Piccadilly Square, was an area known for its lively nightlife and entertainment venues during World War II. The combination of nightlife and young men in the military lent itself to the development of a sex trade. Prostitution was illegal in Britain at the time, and women engaged in the practice were sometimes known as Piccadilly Commandos. In the air, Joe was part of strategic bombings intended to cripple Germany's ability to continue waging war. They targeted airfields, oil refineries, and marshalling yards in France and Germany.
The longest trip we ever made was like 9 hours. And to get a 9-hour trip, they'd install Bombay tanks, fuel tanks. Then you couldn't carry that many bombs, but you could go farther and get back home. And they would transfer the fuel out of those tanks into the wing tanks, because that's where our fuel was, in the wings. And that's one time we couldn't smoke because of the fumes. When the fumes got rocked, or they figured they were all gone, we could smoke. Not only that, at 10,000 feet, you went on oxygen mask. People holler about the oxygen mask now, but we'd be on an oxygen mask with the oxygen, and for the microphone, you had throat mics. There were 2 buttons that would go onto the vocal cords here. And then you had a strap around with a button, so you'd be on that, and that'd be hooked up to the plane.
A throat microphone, also known as a laryngophone, would be strapped around the neck and positioned over the wearer's voice box. When the wearer spoke, the vibrations from their throat would be converted into an electrical signal that could be transmitted. This allows it to perform well even in noisy environments, such as inside a B-24 bomber turret. The tail gunner's turret was cramped and isolated from the rest of the plane, which made intercom communications vital. The aircraft's intercom system typically had different channels or stations that could be tuned to specific roles or areas of the aircraft. The pilot might have a station, the gunners another, etc. This allowed crew members to communicate specifically with those who were relevant to their immediate needs, without distracting or interrupting others.
Now you get those two 50 calibers, they're enclosed in the turret.
The tailgun of a B-24 Liberator was typically equipped with twin 50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns.
The 50 caliber is big because they have a lot of powder in them. We were somewhat protected with our earphones and our helmet. Mm-hmm. But even then, oh yeah, there was some racket in that turret. That's I got hearing aids now, but in a while.
Joe and the ball turret gunner, Birch, became close friends, in part because of their proximity in the plane.
See, we'd sit back in the bomb bay. All the rest of the crew were up in here.
Okay.
And then Birch and I were back of the bomb bay, which was end up about here. And that's where we sit when landing and taking off. Birch, he was short and small, and you had to be small to be in that ball turret. And he was crunched up. He'd shoot his sight was between his legs. His legs would be up, and he'd be shooting all through his legs, but he could go all the way around her. You'd have to make sure he got back into the plane. Because that turret had to come up into the plane so it could land, otherwise it would scrape. So you know, make sure you get me up, Joe. Yep, we were good pals. Well, we were all good pals, but him especially, because yeah, we shoot the breeze back there, and we were like a family. We were close together to the officers. There was 4 officers and 6 enlisted men, and we were very close to everybody. Yeah, everybody, because we'd tell about our homes, our families, or whatever came up. Yeah, you got to be like a family. And you trusted each one. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, while you were in Europe, how did you stay in touch with people back home?
They had a special letter. All our mail was censored by the officers. Now, the officers from another crew would censor our mail.
Okay.
And vice versa, so you wouldn't get into more, how should I say it? If you're writing a love letter or something like that, they didn't want you to know what I was saying. So it's the officers from another crew would censor the mail, and then there was V-mail. My brother in Europe, my brother Johnny was with the infantry there, and he was walking up from the southern part of Italy, and he got shell-shocked on the way up. But prior to that, we had a few letters back and forth. So he knew I was flying, and I knew he was on the ground, and we'd say, oh, those poor buggers down there, and they'd say, oh, those poor buggers up there. But then, what kind of a plane? I said, if you see a plane coming with 2 tails on it, I could be one of them, because the 17 only had one tail.
Right.
We had two tails. And I forget their one said he was sleeping when they woke him up. Johnny, your brother's coming. He's where? He said up there, the 24th. So we all been joking about that. But he came out, he got the Purple Heart. And mail wasn't that, they didn't encourage, well, yeah, they encouraged it because when you made a letter to your parents, the pilot would say, I want to see those letters going to your mother and dad, so we'd have to bring them to him.
Yeah.
And if we didn't bring them to him in a few days, where's that letter to your parents? He'd make sure we wrote to our parents, and our parents would write them back. But now they didn't just scratch out a word. You only had to write on the front page of the paper, because they'd actually, to censor the words or that, they would take a razor blade and actually cut it out of your letter.
They cut it out entirely.
Oh yeah, because otherwise you could do something with them and get that word. See? There were certain words you weren't allowed to, or how should I say, what you're doing, if it was whatever. Oh yeah, they'd cut it out.
Wow.
So and coming back, they'd cut them out too.
Joe said that it was common for their top turret gunner to pray for their safety on missions.
Oh, it was a good prayer. We prayed quite a few times, but no, we'd always tell him, forget the shooting, get to praying. Get to praying. Yeah, it not only that, but I don't care what religion you had or you were, they often didn't have like a priest for the Catholics or whatever denomination there was. I forget what they call them, but they would have a service that you'd go to pray prior to your mission. And there's not many that missed those, I'll tell you that. Yeah. Now, coming back from a mission, they'd question you, interrogate you after the mission to what you seen or what you did or whatever. Not only that, they'd give you a shot or two of brandy or cognac, where some of us drank and some of us didn't, but I did. But you take that and it would more or less relax you, and the question, like we're doing now, they'd come easier to you. Let's put it that way. Yeah, after every mission, yeah.
In retrospect, Joe can see how his combat experience changed how he sees life.
Boy, I'd have to say, it made you, as young as you were, what life really meant. Like, see, I didn't expect to be 20. Didn't expect to be 20. And you more or less, how would I say it? You didn't say, oh, next week I might be gone. But you'd have that in your back of your head, I don't care who you were. Yeah, but we had parachutes, and we relied on them. That was one thing. As long as I had that parachute, I figured I could live, bail out. Plane could get in trouble or that. And we had a bell there that the pilot would press. When that bell went off, you knew how to get out of that plane. And once that bell rang, you didn't ask who or what, you just made your way. And now in those turrets, I couldn't fit a parachute. They had backpack, they had seat packs, and they had chest packs. The chest packs you could leave outside, and you had 2 hooks on your parachute harness. That was always on you. So when if you had to take that parachute and get on, you clipped it on you. And you had to be careful not to pick up the D-ring. The D-ring is what opens up the parachute. You better make sure you got the handle to pick up that parachute and clip it on you the proper way. And then once you left got out of the plane, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you'd pull the ripcord. Never had to bail out.
Did you during training?
Oh, yeah. I think about 500 feet, they'd leave it drop. And it was similar to, not only that, in the water, you just had seconds. If you had to land in the water with the plane. Forget how many seconds you had, because it would break apart in seconds. And if they train you if you bail out over water, because we had to come over what sea is there between?
Would be the English Channel.
English Channel, yep. And you would bail out. We had Mae Wests underneath. The parachute harness.
A Mae West was World War II era slang for a type of inflatable life preserver. The nickname comes from the resemblance of the inflated life preserver to the voluptuous figure of the famous American actress, comedian, and musician Mae West, who is well known for her curvaceous figure and risque humor.
I didn't know you played.
Been playing all my life. This is work.
And they were flat, but they had two CO2 cylinders. They're like little bombs. Did you ever see them? And you'd pull down on them, and that would release the air into your Mae West, your life preserver, in water.
Okay.
Now they train us, if you're over water, it's hard to see how far you are from the water to tell you how far you are, so you got to more or less guess. When you hit the water, you'd have to release your parachute. Otherwise, that would drag you down there. So you had to unclip your parachute, drop down, free fall, in other words, free fall down, and then count, I think that was 10 too, and then pull your cords, and then you'd come up like a cork, because that was around your neck. And now, as far as shooting somebody, I don't think I could shoot a person.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if he shot at me, maybe I'd shoot back naturally. But a friend of mine, same age as me, he was in Germany, and he shot two Germans. And I thought, well, like I say, he was different. He'd get shot at too. I was shooting at a plane. I wasn't shooting at a person. Eventually, maybe he died in that plane too, but I wasn't to go up there. And I hate to shoot a deer. I never shot a deer, let's put it that way. Or a rabbit, deer hunt, rabbit hunting. No, I didn't think they were hurting me. Well, I knew they weren't hurting me. I didn't want them to eat. I didn't eat them. I didn't like to say I was eating rabbit or deer. So, I mean, no, as far as killing something, no, I don't. Or even today, I don't. Well, killing is. I'm against killing, let's put it that way. They showed you what to do. Yeah. Train you well, let's put it that way. And you had to listen, and you had to be good. Like the instructor told me, you better be good, better listen. Yeah, it's not only that, the pilot would keep making sure you work good. All of it.
Yeah.
That's one reason. He was an instructor at, I'm forgetting the college down in Iowa State. It was Iowa State College. He was a professor there. He went back to college when I met him. He was still studying teaching at that college. Yeah. But he kept us in shape. We were still kids. 18, you're still a kid. 19, you're still a kid. But you go up in a hurry. While we were flying in the last few missions, they gave us a piece of oilcloth with the American flag on it, with a safety pin. And now the one that's given the briefing, Now, when you get shot down or something like that, and you know where the German army is and the Russian army is, you give yourself up to the Germans. Patton will get you out. If the Russians get you, we won't know anything about you. Cold War was starting already, see?
In our next episode, Joe will tell us about how the war ended for him and what he did with the army after leaving England. Thanks for spending your time listening to Preserving Valor. Make sure to hear all our future episodes by following us on Spotify and subscribing on Substack. And of course, a huge thank you to Joe Enrietti and the veterans who served alongside of him.